Is everybody here? Having some tech issues today. You guys all hear me okay? Make sure I'm unmuted here. Yeah. Give me some flash mics or bounce in and let me know that you can hear me. And then I know we'll be good for the day.
We can hear you. Hello,
All right.
everyone.
Very good. Yeah, my computer's just decided to shut down a couple times today. So waiting on the reboot to get back in here and get things rolling. How is everybody doing with everything so far? Have you tuned in? How many sessions have you tuned into? How many of you are new? How many of you have been through this before? And what are you getting out of some of the Ignite stuff that we're covering? What do you, or either like ahas or what you put in place? Today's another big day, by the way. Anybody want to share anything? Whoa. Computer's doing all kinds of funky stuff here. Anybody have anything they want to share? Are we in holiday mode? Uh-oh, I didn't lose you guys. No, there you are. You're all still here. Is everybody in holiday mode or are you in the office working today?
Holiday mode. I have kids at home. So
Okay. Well, we'll jump into the material. You guys seem a little bashful today, so maybe I can spur something out of you today, which that's kind of my little game I play with myself, is to try and spur some conversations out of you based on some of these topics and how you're relating it to what you're working on in your business. And today's session is like absolutely huge. Looks like we got the wrong one up here though. I don't know why that one's open. Let me close that out. I got number 2 up here. Let's see if this one's it. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. This one. I don't know why that one was open. All right, let me share my screen here. Today is the database is your business. And here's what I'll tell you about this, guys. I mean, there's a great book out there that Gary Keller told me to read once, and it was called oh my God, I just went blank. Oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of the book. I just totally like went old man on you guys. It's about putting 20,000 hours into something.
The one thing?
Not well, he talks about the 20,000 hours in the one thing. There's another book that some of that information came from, and it's about being in the outer ring of things and becoming masterful at things, which he talks about. I mean, it is totally covered in the one thing. So I appreciate that you did mention the one thing, because that's really where Gary pinpoints the information I'm about to share with you. And Jason, if you are listening, I am disabled from the link that I used to share my screen. So if you can make me, looks like you might have gotten it already. Man, you are on it, dude. You are always on it. Anyway, this is 20,000 hours of working in a database. Like, I quit counting after 20,000 hours. This is spending several hours a day for 20 years working in the database. So that little piece that I bring into this part of your business, layering in what everything else I know is coming at you, especially when you're newer in real estate and you're really just absorbing everything, trying to figure out who's got the magic pill, who's going to help you get the deals the fastest, who's going to help you find the most business. And when it comes down to it, there's 100 ways to do 100 different deals in real estate. And the more you do, you can get crazy and be stuck on a hamster wheel spinning if you don't do some core things first, which the one thing talks about. So a lot of what I'm sharing with you is 20,000 hours of being in a database. And so when I say the database is your business, I can literally look at your database and I can just scan through it for about 10 or 15 minutes. And I can tell you how many deals you're going to do a year in real estate. And it will all be based on how many people you have in there and what kind of follow-up plans you have running, how well you're keeping in touch with it. The other thing I'll tell you about your database, and there's just a couple of things I want to just make sure you don't do that I've seen be big mistakes when I'm coaching top agents around the country. And these aren't necessarily successful Keller Williams agents, although I've coached them as well. And I can tell you there's a lot of things in there as well that I share with you guys. But I'm talking about if I just randomly started talking to some top successful real estate agents, not at Keller Williams, for example, and doesn't really understand the database, just got into real estate and started selling real estate and worked hard every year and has been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, they probably have 300 to 500 people in their database after 20 or 30 years. Just talked with a gentleman recently he's in another country, actually. Him and his wife have lived in that town for 30 years, and they maybe have 300 people in their database. Guys, a database is not just a database to store your past clients, okay? A database, today's world for a database is a contact management system. And if you had to write anything down that you can remember from anything I say today, it is oh gosh, I'm just so sorry, guys. It's a late night of football here in Kansas City. I don't know if y'all stayed up and watched some late night football, but I was there in the 30-degree temps celebrating Ben Roethlisberger's retirement party here in Kansas City. I'm kind of sad he didn't get the last touchdown, though. Dang, that would have been nice to see him at least get that one last touchdown in before the time went out. Anyway, so my voice is a little gone, and we got home about midnight last night, but that's not why I'm like off. I'm just, my brain's not clicking right. But the future is in the follow-up, or the fortune is in the follow-up. That's the word I'm looking for. And I don't want to take that real lightly, because the follow-up is where everyone is dropping the ball. And we talked about this just in the last session on Wednesday. Wait, what is today? Monday? On Friday, we talked about that it's that a lot of people will stay in touch with about probably 10, 15. If you're really, really good at follow-up and you think you're great at follow-up, you are keeping in touch with 20% at the most of the people who know who you are. And most people don't even think about just capturing everybody in the database, which is why I hammer on that. And today we're really going to talk about that database and the follow-up. So Gary says in the 4 laws of lead generation, build a database, feed it every day. And the word every is not like in highlights or lightly used. It is every single day. Systematically communicate with it, persistently, consistently, over and over and over again. And it's not just once or twice where we make a general attempt. It is staying in touch with it all the time. So the database is a place for you to capture everybody. And my secret, I'm giving you guys the secret to 100 sales. I mean, every one of you have it. Every one of you today with social media and between cell phones and social media and everything like that, have at least 500 to 1,000 people that you've communicated with, talked with in your community. Unless you just moved there, you are brand new and know no one, which I know there's somebody in one of our classes that just moved to the area and knows no one. However, no one's kind of a very loose word, because if you're going to school, you're going to school events, you're talking to human beings in the community, two-way conversation, that awareness level needs to open up to really start capturing those people. Today, I'm going to show you guys some really cool just ways to find those addresses, missing information, kind of what I do every single day in my database. Every single day, I'm spending probably an hour churning through addresses and people's names that are wrong in the database. A couple of them that I was working on yesterday are a couple of girls that used to work for the Korn team probably back in 2015. And just by digging around on the sites that I'll share with you today, I was able to dig up where her address is and where she currently lives through the methods that I'll talk about today. And we'll get to that here in just a little bit. So before I go any further, is anybody having any challenges with your master list? Or if you haven't been on before where we've talked about the master list and you have no clue what the master list is, speak now. Otherwise you'll be lost. Anybody not know what the master list is?
Me, I'm not clear about that, sorry.
Okay, so a master list is what I say is the best way to do this is to buy a spiral notebook from, say, like Walmart, Walgreens, Costco, anywhere, office supply store, college bound spiral notebook. And I want you to write master list on the front cover. And that is your capture list. That when our brain is going 1,000 miles an hour, and every time you think of a human being throughout the day, you open that notebook up and you carry it with you everywhere. It's in your car, it's in your car seat, it's on your desk, and you write down the person's name that's coming to mind. If you're calling them for something, if you're checking in on something, if they're at a store and you're ordering takeout and you go there all the time, write down the person's name. Start capturing everybody there. In fact, with that master list, you go to your Facebook friends list and you open it up. This is probably a 1 hour commitment though, because you can't leave once you start. And once you do this and you get these names off of Facebook friends list into the notebook and you get them all written down, like writing the name down, what's happening is in your mind, you guys are connecting whether or not you really know who that person is. And 80% of the people, you're going to, at first glance, not know who the heck that person is. And if you thought about them for a second or two, you're going to pick up another 20 or 30% of them and be like, oh, yeah, I remember who that is. So there's going to be half this people on this list. You don't even know why they're friends on Facebook. You can't even remember who they are. Unless you were to go in and click on their profile and start scrolling through their feed and see some of the things that they're talking about, right? And that's how I find addresses, is I might scroll 10, 20 things down, and there's a picture of them in front of their house, and there's the house numbers. It's real easy to put up their last name in the tax records with that house number and probably find the house that they live in. So there's lots of different ways to find addresses. And of course, the best one is just pick up the phone and reconnect with them and ask them where they live. I mean, if they're people that you know and you remember who they are, which is what the master list does, by writing it down, once you get all your names written down from Facebook, you have to do it on one sitting, because if you leave Facebook and you come back later, they'll be gone. In fact, write this down. The Facebook tip is to scroll all the way to the bottom. And it will take you a little while. If you've got 5,000 people like I do and created my master list, it's long. In fact, I'll show you my Facebook master list. So because I speak and train all over the place, I'm maxed out at 5,000. So I have to go constantly through Facebook and take people out. That's what 5,000 people will look like in if you write down Facebook. So I've got, heck, that's the same, pretty equivalent to what a notebook would be. And now what I'm doing is this is probably about a 5-year project to go through here, because now as I'm deleting agents off of my personal profile and moving them over to my coach page, which is where I share real estate stuff anyway, it's where they should be. It's always the local agents that I'm deleting first, and I'm taking them out. But yet I still stay in touch with local agents in my database, and I drip things on them because I want to be able to co-op easier. I want them to take my offers. Just had an offer accepted yesterday where the agent said, a cash offer came in, Brad, but I told you that my seller had verbally wanted to take your offer. He just couldn't fill it out online. So he's going to honor that. I mean, those are the kind of things that when a buyer is working with you and you have that with agents in your marketplace, they're not competitors from a bad perspective, but co-op agents where we're cooperating together and we respect each other, and they trust that you're going to have a smooth transaction. And as you do more real estate, you'll become that person, right? But if you always do the win-win, no deal. Yep, let me pause for a second. Somebody have a question, or was that just background noise? All right, might have just been background noise. So those reputations, I don't want to just cancel them in Facebook and forget about them. So that is the list where I go through and verify, do I have their addresses right? There's people in the community that are on that Facebook page that I guarantee you might not be in my database. And or if they were in my database and they were on a plan once, I mentioned to you all that back in 17 and 18, I teamed up with another team to expand around the country and use these systems, only they didn't really want me to do that. They had ulterior motives. and nobody followed up with my database for 2 years that I thought was being maintained. The system was there and nobody on their team was doing anything with it. So a lot of my database and systems have completely been turned off. And my business is now 2 years later, I'm starting to see that the phone's not ringing as much as it usually does. And it's not because of the market conditions. The people are still moving. So I work frantically every day to reconnect with those people that have been disconnected from over 2 years ago. There's over 10,000, 15,000 people in my database. So it's not something that I do overnight. And it's not something that I can just sit here in my office and lock myself up for a month and work on it. You have to be out in the field selling houses every month, or unless you can, not rely on the money to pay bills. If you need the money for a living, you have to be on the phone setting listing appointments. So anyway, the master list is a way to capture all the names that are coming at you throughout the day so you can be organized about finding a phone number and an address, and then see if they're really in your database. And I challenge every single one of you to go through Facebook and go through your cell phone contacts. You can go through your cell phone contacts. You can go through your incoming calls and your outbound calls. Write down every phone number or name that's in your phone in that notebook. And if it's just a phone number with no name, you're going to find out ways today to type that number into a reverse search and see if a name pops up that you recognize. Some of these people are just going to be nothing. I mean, they're going to come back and you're not going to know who they are. They really aren't somebody in your community. It could have been a robocaller, something like that. And you'll know that when you do these research things, that you'll just scratch those out and take them off your list. Once you get things in your notebook, if you have a database started already, now I'm going to bet, no matter how long you've all been in the business right now, you either need to clean up your database or you need to start a database, and you haven't put too many people in your database yet that you can't organize it and clean it up. So once you create this master list, you're going to find that most people aren't even in your database yet. Second thing I'm going to say about database, if you don't have something other than command, if you're using something other than command and it works for you, that's fine. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I want you to use the database that you will use every day. But if you don't have a database that you go in and add new connections in, new people in every single day, then use command and use it every single day. If you get lost every time you go in, but you do it every single day, you're not going to be lost 3 days from now. If once you figure out your login and your password and you use it for 5 days in a row, you will be able to log in and get your password right away. You won't have to be changing your password all the time, hit and remember I don't remember what my password is. Send me a clue, send me a hint, change it again. That's wasting time, right? So once you use it every single day, just leave the password the way it is and just start feeding 5 people a day. Don't worry about what to put them on. Just feed in 5 people a day. Do that for 2-3 months straight. Get 300 people in your database that you don't have on plans. You don't have on anything. You're not even sure if you have the right number and the address, but you'll be light years ahead of moving your business forward just by putting them in every day. Because you don't need to know the other stuff and you don't need to know everything command does until you're putting in 5 people a day. So we're not wasting the first 300. We're just not doing anything worse with the first 300 that we put in command over the next 3 months. If you did 5 a day, 5 days a week, that's 100 a month, 300 in 3 months. You won't be doing less for those 300 people than you are right now by not putting them in your database. I hope that makes sense to you guys right now. And once you get 300 people in there, you start to get a lot more serious about your database. And now you're like calling me going, okay, Brad, I did what you said. I've been putting people in. Now I've got 300 people in there and I feel like I'm missing business. Somebody said they just bought a house yesterday. Now you're ready to go to the next step. The only thing that's different between that conversation and you not putting in those 300 people in the next 3 months is you wouldn't have known you would miss the business. But because you're putting people in, you're starting to notice how much business is slipping past you. So let me just pause for a second. That is the layer that everything else you're doing, I promise you, if you get good at that, everything else you do is going to be amplified. The results are going to be amplified by 6, 8, 10 times. If you're going to do open houses, if you're going to do client appreciation parties, if you're going to do any type of drawings or buyer seminars or door knocking, when you're masterful at capturing every single day, you're going to capture more of those people while you're doing that stuff. And you're going to know how to get into relationship with them. And you're going to build your business faster than anybody else has built their business in this real estate industry. Now, as long as you keep kind of going with the traditional methods and not capturing them every day and not going to your database every day and not feeding your database. Uh-oh. Whoever just came on, you will mute yourself out. We got on in your background. There we go. I think nope. Well, we still got it. All right, we're good. So whenever you're going to get your business going, if you're feeding the database every day. All right. Any questions before I kind of jump into this material? Are you guys doing okay? You hanging on with your fingernails?
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Yes.
All right. I can beat a dead horse pretty good. And this one I'm going to beat until the end of time, because I know what it will do for you. It makes your phone start ringing, you guys. It's so fun. It makes real estate fun again when people are calling you for real estate advice versus having to talk to strangers. Not that you're not going to talk to strangers. That's still a valid piece of a way to get business. But in the long haul, you won't do it consistently and persistently. You won't do it every single day for 3 or 4 hours, talking to strangers, hearing no. You're not going to do it. So you're going to do it hodgepodgey, and then you get stuck in that realm of doing 10, 15 deals a year. You might get really good at 20 deals a year, but you'll hit this ceiling pretty quick. When you do relationships, guys, no matter how big and fast it gets, if I start making business roll and your phone starts ringing faster than you can handle it, you get to get picky. You get to start helping the people who are ready, pre-approved, ready to go. And you can refer the other ones out, or you can put them on a plan to get them approved and get them all that stuff versus running around showing a bunch of people houses that haven't even gone for pre-approval yet, or, all that stuff. So anyway, that's why I really, really harp on that. So today, I mean, the database is still generating for buyers and sellers. So a database, the biggest difference I can tell you about a database is a base that holds data. It does nothing else other than hold it. So if you've got names on a spreadsheet or something like that, what you've got is you have to go look at the list to find the name of the person that you're thinking you need to touch base with next. It's just a list of records, right? A contact management system that actually has reminders that says, hey, call this person in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months, in 12 months. Man, think about this. 5 a day, every day, feeding my database every single day, and I'm feeding new people into it. How in the heck am I going to remember who to call in 6 months, let alone 12 months? And who would I know if I've called them or haven't called them? Did I get them on the phone? Did I not get them on the phone? Did I leave them a message? Did I not give them a message? So it helps nurture those people. And the emails and the other follow-up pieces are just bridges to the next phone call. I will tell you guys, the phone, this is your money magnet. This is your money magnet right here. The more your voice is on this talking to a human being, the more real estate you're going to call. So if you're someone that's telling me you want to go on 2 or 3 listing appointments a week, you're going to have to be on this for an hour, 5 days a week to find 2 or 3 listing appointments a week. Because right now you have to talk to 100 people to get 1 appointment. If I want 3 appointments, I got to talk to 300 people to get 1 appointment. That's way more than 5 people a day, right? That's like 15 people a day. And that's why bold is 20 calls a day while you're in bold, and you'll do 14 sales. It's 7 weeks. Guys, picture these numbers. They all line up. Every way I've looked at the numbers, it all lines up to everything we've been saying about 98% of the people aren't moving right now. In bold, 20 people a day, 100 people a week, 7 weeks, 700 people. Now, out of 700 people, 70 to 140 of those people will be moving in the next 12 months. which is probably around 10 people a month. You're in bold for 7 weeks. There could be 70 people out of those 700 people that are moving, but it's in a 12-month period. So we're only in bold for not even 2 months. So you got to divide that, right? And it's probably about 14 or 15 people of those 70 people are moving while you're in bold. The numbers just keep showing up exactly like we're saying, and they will always be this way for eternity. They've been this way for eternity. They'll always be this way for eternity. That's why the average person that attends bold gets 14 sales. Those numbers have been around forever, but it's about capturing all 700 and getting them in while you're in bold to get those 14 deals faster than if you're going 5 people a day, like I'm saying. So I'm talking about building your long-term business of just building 5 a day, and you do that every single day. And unless you're well, I'm not even going to say unless you're a cave dweller, because I'm creating relationships with people, some very, very successful, high-powered people on the internet, just in chat rooms and going to like different training events and seeing people online and communicating with them and messaging them. So I'm creating relationships digitally, but yet it's almost as if we were in person talking. And then it's moving that off of that to go find their address, find a phone number for them, pick up the phone and call them, have a good conversation, and then write them a handwritten note and put them on a drip plan of some sort. It's happening every single day. So that's what it basically does. Is once you get people in your database and you start that follow-up system, I can literally predict how many deals you're going to do from that database, how many opportunities you're going to have. I can probably even pretty much guess just by talking to you for a minute or two on how many of those you'll actually capture. So when I talk about 100 deals, you all have 100 transactions sitting in front of you right now, and we just have to capture 25 of them. Maybe we need to just capture 5 or 10 of them, right? But you're going to capture 25 of them pretty easy, and you're going to lose 75 pretty easy. You could work really, really hard and capture 50 of them. You might not capture 100% of them. And it's because it does take time, and it's overtime, and you have to keep staying in touch with them for 10 years to cash in on it. Now, once you get that going in there, the trust level increases. They know you, they like you, they trust you, and everything runs smoother, and the experience they have is better. So that's where the fun stuff really comes in, when you're working with people that are in your database. So I'll pause out after this. What is the purpose of your database? What do you guys think the purpose of your database is? And what makes a database valuable? What are you guys picking up from this conversation? Anybody have anything they want to throw in that you might be thinking differently? Go ahead.
Maintaining and nurturing relationships.
Yeah, maintaining and nurturing. So you got to capture them, and you got to put them in there. And I'll give you guys the little insight to exactly what I think you mean by the nurturing part. Is there's so much happening every single day that there's lots of tornadoes going on. There's always some opportunity in front of us. There's always something else we could be working on. There's like, oh my gosh, I still got to put away my Christmas stuff yet. Holy crud. How can I like be working on my business when I know I got boxes of Christmas stuff all around the main floor of my house, right? So there's always distractions coming at us. So campaigns, or the SMART plans in command, or a campaign or an action plan, is the best way to do this. And for where you guys are sitting right now, you can get caught up in the minutia of what does that actually look like? And do I send an email? What do I say in the email? And our realtor brains will go to, what can I say in the email that would make them pick up the phone and call me and buy or sell real estate right now today, or call me to come list their house? Stop that. 98% of the people aren't doing anything. What you need to do is just make phone calls, and you probably have to call somebody 4, 5, or 6 times before you're going to be top of mind, solidified. And if they're anywhere out in their life today, somebody says the word real estate, they're like, oh my gosh, I know exactly who you need to call, right? It's going to take multiple times. So when you look at an 8x8, which is a phone call, like you meet somebody for the first time and really connect with them. You write them a handwritten note is my suggestion, is number one, because then that tells me you have their address. So you might as well put them on a real true 8x8 plan that has another phone call in 4 weeks and a phone call in 8 weeks. And then there's a 9th step in the 8x8 campaign or action plan or smart plan. There's actually 9 steps in an 8-touch. And the 9th step says, who could guess what the 9th step probably is in an 8x8? It's really simple. It's not a trick question. Put somebody in your database. 8 weeks later, what do you need to remember to do when this plan is over?
Start a new plan.
Start a new plan. That is actually the last step on every single smart plan you will ever create from this day forward. And I'm telling you, most plans don't have that step, right? So once it ends, if you really got into feeding the database every day and these plans are ending randomly at different times, there's no way to remember who stopped and who hasn't, right? So that would then say start the 33 touch. And at the end of the 33 touch, there's actually 34 touches. There's 34 touches, and the 34th touch is to restart the 33 touch. And I might restart this 33 touch 7 times on one person before they actually get to move over to another plan, which is ready to buy until we write a contract, or from the time we write a contract until it closes, or they're thinking about listing. Now they're getting their house prepped for sale versus when they list and till they get a contract. So those are all smart plans that everybody's on a smart plan. If they're ready to list or we're looking at houses, they're not on an 8x8 or 33 touch anymore. They're on the new buyer until we find a house plan. And that plan is a little more aggressive than the 8x8 and the 33 touch. Every 2 days, they're either getting an email linking back to their properties. Are you driving by properties? Or a call's popping up at least twice a week saying, hey, are you driving by those properties? Or there's another, the reminder to go give them my KW app so that they're using my app. That usually happens on day 2 or 3 of them becoming an active buyer. There's a letter in there that says, have you gotten pre-approved? There's a to-do action item in there that says, call the lender and see if they called the lender to get pre-approved. So we can send them a letter that says, here's our guy. We send them an email that says, did you call this guy? And we can say, have a to-do to call the lender and go, did they call you yet? And most people haven't gotten pre-approved yet. So how serious of a buyer are they? So then we get to have those conversations, and that action plan or that smart plan is driving all that stuff. But they would switch over to that the minute they said, we want to go see a house. So then we start training them to drive by the properties, check out the neighborhood, do all this stuff first. We got to get you pre-approved, and then we'll start getting out there to see properties. And of course, you know, that's when they come in for a buyer consultation. You've kind of gone over everything, and now the plan is dripping that stuff back out on them. Does that make sense? How many of you are thinking about your database even a little more different in the last 5 minutes than you were 5 minutes ago? This is a contact management system. Does that make sense? Also, when it says here, it makes a targeted marketing effective. Guys, you know, you can go into a database and pull up people that have been in your system for like a past client from 5 years ago. So listen to this. This is crazy stuff. So you got a potential listing coming on in a neighborhood. Now I'm going to share some statistics that I just pay attention to and I see regularly because I like to take the shortest cut possible to get deals. And National Association of Realtors sends out reports every year on what the trends are. And some of the trends that have been year after year after year are that people typically move within 5 miles of where they currently live. And they typically move up 50% in value from what they currently live in. So if they're living in a $300,000 house, 50% of that is $150,000. So most $300,000 homeowners are moving up to a $450,000 house, and they're moving within 5 miles of where they currently live. So if you actually had everyone in your database and you're in touch with them continually, right, you would know kind of who's at the 5-year mark, and you could also pull up your tags on, you know, past client from 2015. But if you're in touch with them for the last 5 years, you'll actually start noticing their conversations about, They're starting to wonder how much stuff they have to do around the house, getting things fixed up. Maybe it's time to think about seeing what else is out there. Those conversations start, or they start running out of space, or, you know, whatever it might be. You're going to hear conversations from year 5 to year 7. So if you knew of a listing coming up, well, I'll play this 2 different ways. If you had a listing coming up in an area that you knew was going to be around $450,000, could you imagine just going into your KW app, circling 5 miles around where that house is, right? And find all the people in your database that have bought in the last 5 years to 10 years. Can you imagine if you went to the listing appointment with that and you said, I already have a list of 3 or 4 people that I personally have sold houses to. Now, what if you went in and pulled up MLS sales? Guys, listen, I'm giving you mastery level conversation here, mastery level. If I were to go into MLS, go a 5-mile radius around the house that I'm about to go have a listing appointment with, right? And I pull up sales from 3 to 10 years ago within 5 miles that sold 5 to 10 years ago for around 200 to 300,000, right? Or maybe like 175 to 275, somewhere in there. I could just get an MLS printout listing of the houses that sold back then. When I go to the listing presentation, I don't leave this sheet with them, but I hold up a sheet and I go, I already have a list of people that would be most likely looking for your house. These people bought their house about 5 years ago. They live within 5 miles of here, so they probably want to keep their kids in the same school. And this would be just a move up for them. So I already have a targeted list of buyers to look for your home. So now I'm going to pause out there. So for somebody who's new to an area or doesn't have their master list or doesn't feel like you have 500 to 1,000 people, you could probably pick up 50 to 100 people right there that you could just go do the normal cold calling type call. But now your cold call is more of a warm call because you're actually calling just saying, hey, congratulations. I noticed you bought your house about 5 years ago. I don't know if you guys have thought about doing anything. Obviously, you're going to start that one with, hey, it's Brad Korn with Keller Williams, just calling today because I noticed you bought your house 5 years ago and didn't know if you guys had thought about buying or selling anytime soon, but there's been some activity in the neighborhood. And I just thought I'd call and see if you guys were thinking about buying or doing something. So if I were going to cold call, I'm gonna warm cold call. I like lukewarm cold calls better than I do cold calls. So I will always take that path. Okay, let me pause out there, take a breath, see if anybody has any questions they want to jump in with. Is this good stuff so far? Giving you guys some really powerful things to take back and really apply to your business and play real estate, yet also layer in there that if you're going to call those people, capture them and put them on a follow-up plan. We got a question?
Yeah, so I just had a question. Like when you're doing that 5-year plan, when you're doing that in your database, this is just your immediate friend, like immediate people you know, right? But if you wanted to expand that to, let's say, that neighborhood, do you like pull up, I guess, people's addresses and put that in there and then also prospect them when you're making this call?
Yeah, I mean, like what we're going to talk about today is just finding their missing information so you can get them on the phone and talk to them. Is that kind of what you're asking me?
And then also, like when you make that call and you're saying you've been here 5 years, like have you ever had experiences where people get offended? Like, how do you know I've been here for 5 years or 6 years, and why does that concern you?
Yeah. Well, and so a lot of people bring that kind of stuff up on these calls. And so this is exactly why I spend so much time talking about your Facebook friends list and your phone list, because you have 2 lists to work from: people that already know you or strangers. And a lot of agents do say that exact same thing. And the more you call, the more you will get better using the right scripts, because when they say on the phone, we talked about this on Friday, when they say on the phone, well, how'd you get that information? That's called an objection, and you don't know what to say the first couple times it happens. So write it down in your objection book, and then go find the scripts that you would use to say in that spot the next time somebody says that. And as you get doing it enough, you're going to figure out the script where they stop asking you that. So if that came up 3 times in a row, then I might lead off the conversation somewhere where I would say, a lot of people wonder how I got this information. This is what I would say. A lot of people may wonder how I got this information, and I sell a lot of real estate in the area, and it's my job to know who's ready to move, when they're ready to move. And your information was on the old MLS system. So I'm calling to get to know your house and see if you guys are thinking about buying or selling. I might have a buyer for your house already. I don't know, haven't seen it yet. And I might have a house coming on the market that would be perfect, like it'd be your dream home. So it's my job to know that stuff because I sell real estate and I am the specialist for your neighborhood. Now, I just made that sound pretty easy, right? Does that sound like something you could almost say and use and feel a little more comfortable about it?
I don't know, I'm new, so.
Yeah, right. And so you only need to be new for 1 week. In fact, if you really are nervous about that, then call 100 people today and say, hey, I saw you bought your house 5 years ago, and have them throw that one at you. Because I will tell you that what I have found is what I think they're going to say, and what I actually hear them say, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And so there's a lot of times that will keep you from just doing it in the first place. But I'm going to let you off the hook a little bit and tell you, if you just reconnect with the people on your Facebook friends list and in your cell phone, you won't have to worry about that phone call, because these people already know you. They're not going to question you like a total stranger would, freaking out. And some of you will get a little freaked out today when I talk about the ways we find addresses and phone numbers. I am the biggest creeper on the internet. I mean, you should have seen me creeping on the people this week. It was scary creepy. Like I'm digging, like the girl that used to work for me. I mean, I am digging, and I'm looking at her house, and I'm looking at the barn that they're sitting in. I'm like, wait, the house looks real small, but the barn looks like they're on acreage. And I scrolled through somewhere, and she goes, I found, like, I don't remember when it was, 2 years ago, there was a thread down in there that said, buying our first home out in Holden. I've always wanted to live out on acreage. Well, crap, I didn't know that. And she hasn't worked for me for 6-7 years now, but it was in Holden. So went right back to Holden in the tax records, and bing, there she is right there. I got her address, and I've got her back on the database. Now, she's an agent that used to work for me. However, those two still work together 6 years later. They don't sell a whole lot. They sell maybe a few houses a month. But they have shown my houses, so I want them on my agent drip plan. I mean, they know my system inside and out. So if I drip my plans back on them, they know exactly what it is, but it's making them think of me, right? So I want to keep that always good. They didn't leave on bad terms or anything. So I still want them to be co-op friends that sell my properties. So anyway, yeah, some of it's kind of creeper stuff, right? So here's the 3 levels of a millionaire database: your essential, your effective, and your exceptional database. The absolute essential is name, contact information, past business, contact record, and at-will communication. What we sell is homes. So I'm going to tell you the essential that you need in a database is the address and a phone number. Email, in my world, as far as Brad Korn is concerned, is worthless. Email is perfect for the person that I'm actually working with, who's expecting things from me. You're not going to reconnect with somebody or build a relationship from an email coming out of the blue with no personal communication. Sorry about that. I wanted to mute that out before that screaming and yelling cough came out. That is absolutely essential. And it's why I just harp on getting a master list to put an address and a phone number in. The next thing is the effective database is obtaining permission. Okay, understand that when you're rebuilding it on the relationships you already have, it's a lot easier to obtain permission with your friends if you just call them out of the blue and connect first. Forget about real estate. You guys will sell more real estate if you forget you're a real estate agent for a second. Real estate is the conversation like the weather is the conversation. And like right now, football is the conversation. In fact, I think, are you guys Buffalo fans there? Or are you guys still the New York, the Giants? No, yeah, you guys support the Giants. Okay. So we got Buffalo coming up on Sunday. So I just didn't know if I was going to be walking a fine line here on Monday when we have our next Ignite class. So, all right, I figured you guys were New York Giants mostly. But so that obtaining permission, this is where agents say all the time, well, so what do I do? Do I ask them for their address? Or in bold, I'll hear it all the time. So do you mind if I keep in touch with you? Can I get your address? And it's like, if you have to ask that, you're probably not as connected as you thought, or you're asking it like you're waiting for them to say, why? Well, you don't need my address. You've got my email. Guys, that's all in your head. It's all in your head. You know what? I expect them to give me their address. So I always ask, so where do you live? You mean like my home address? Yeah, that's perfect. I act like they came up with the idea and they give it to me all day long, every day. Total strangers. So I'm not just saying I just do this with the people I know. I do it with total strangers because I've mastered it so well. When an internet lead comes in, man, they tell me their life story within seconds. I've got them telling me where they live, how many kids live with them, how many family members they got crammed in different rooms, trying to get this sister out. She just won't leave. I mean, they tell me their whole life story because I just have a conversation around it. And I always work into that conversation that I got to have their address and their phone number, or I can't send them the note, which means I can't put them in the database and start them on a follow-up plan. But you're collecting more of their personal information too. As you have that third and fourth and fifth conversation from the essential list, and you put them on a follow-up plan, and you're making the call at week 4 and the call at week 8, not worrying about making it about real estate. Let real estate come up naturally. It will come up naturally within 3, 4, or 5 calls. I promise you. You're just checking in, see how they're doing. Anything you need connected with. I sell real estate with a lot of the top affiliates, all like the deck guys and the fence guys. And if there's anything you need, you call me, right? Just had a client text me the other day and go, somebody broke into my house while I was out of town. They trashed my hardwood floors and something else. Oh, put some holes in the sheetrock and I got to paint. So it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I knew I better call you and see if you knew a hardwood floor guy and a sheetrock guy. I said, yep, got them both. And here's their number. I mean, that was in a text that took about 30 seconds. I should pull the text up. She's like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I knew you would have the name and number of the perfect people to call. They came over yesterday and they're perfect and they were so helpful, blah, 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 blah. She's not buying a house. She actually bought the house she's renting. Now, here's a little bonus. I made $1,500 helping them both write the contract between her landlord and her, because she called me and said, I don't know how to do paperwork. I'm buying my house. Do you think this is a good deal? I said, it obviously is. And so now she gets all my stuff from me. She's on just like a past client follow-up for the next 10 years. She gets an anniversary card on owning her house. So you get more personal information when it's an effective database. You don't get to be effective until you get the essentials in there first and reconnect with them. And then really when you get masterful and powerful, it's all automated. There's custom built with triggers, all that kind of stuff. And understand that I still leave the personal touch in the really exceptional database. When your database is 10,000 people, what that might look like, and if I could explain this clearly to where you guys can understand how the database works. If you started capturing 5 people a day today, 100 people a month, 1,200 people a year, in 5 years, you'll be adding, in 5 years and 1 day from now, you'll be adding 5 new people to the database, and you'll be doing it again tomorrow, and you'll be doing it again the next day. And you've got these other 5,000 or 6,000 people from the previous 5 years that are in the database that are getting like call number 4 of the 33 touch. It's been a year. Some people are getting year 3 call, which is 4 calls a year for the last 3 years. So they've had 12 calls from you, right? Understand that 8 of those 12 calls were probably voicemail because there wasn't anything. You're so in touch with them now. It might go to voicemail and you just say, hey, it's Brad, nothing important, just checking in on you. And they're like, yeah, and they'll just call back and check in, or they'll just text me and go, hey, everything's cool here. Thanks for checking in. It's always great to keep in touch. And then there's other little things dripping behind it. But as I get somebody in that system for 3 years or so, I don't need to call them 4 times a year. Now I could probably call them twice a year and have my team call them twice a year, because now think about this, that's 6,000 people in my database, 6,000 relationships that I've done 5 a day, like we talk about on today's call. And I do it just like that. That is 6,000 people in there. There's 600 to 1,200 people moving in the next 12 months. They're moving. Absolutely. So I'm going to have a team of people, or I'm going to have agents I want to refer it to if I don't want to manage a team. But I don't know how you cannot not manage a team, especially when the phone's just ringing and people are coming in, right? So they're just coming in and they're calling you to come list their house. So that's where you can get less and less touches after you've been in touch with them so well for 5 years that you can start calling them twice a year. After 10 years, I think you can call people once a year. And in fact, I coached a lot of top agents that were kids taking over the family real estate business. And it's like, mom and dad need to retire. We need to step them out, but my mom doesn't really want to quit working. I mean, real estate's one of those things it's sometimes not even really work. Once you guys do this in a year or two, you will realize real estate is not work. It's fun. It's just talking to people and making friends every single day and just being a connection and being there when they are ready. So I tell them, let your parents call whoever they want. Like, you can hand them a list of people, put 1 call a year in there where your parents call the old clients and just have a chat with them so that they can do it on their retirement level. And if they call people, great. If they don't, we've already got other people calling them anyway to keep in touch with them. But man, I mean, that's the life. If you got to retire and just chit chat and go have lunch with people and do all that stuff naturally, you get to do whatever you want to do in that retirement year of your real estate age. All right, I know I just keep talking about a bunch of high level stuff, so I'm going to pause for a second, see if anybody has any questions. All right, cool. Then we're going to rip through this last part of this, and it's avoiding the today trap and the predictable ROI. So this is where, unfortunately, most people have 2 types of business. It's either today's business or it's tomorrow's business. And without a database, your business is only today business. Everybody you're calling, you can work as hard as you want and call 100 people, and you can get your 2 appointments that you have to have. But if you don't do anything with the 98 people to put them in the database and put on a follow-up plan, and let me just get real here. If I had a list of 100 people to call today, if you guys told me I do not know how I'm going to pay next month's bills, and I know there's people that are probably a little stressed out about this, and this is a real thing. So I'm going to tell you, real. If you have to have a sale in the next 30 to 60 days or you can't make bills, then you have to call 100 people this week. You have to get an appointment or 2. I don't care what you say to the 100 people. I don't care if you screw the whole thing up. If you don't call 100 people, you're not going to get any closer to your 1 or 2 deals, and you will be in trouble in 30 to 60 days. If you need 2 deals, it's 200 people. Now, if you want to not ever have this problem again, make sure you keep the people that you actually do talk with that aren't doing anything and not an appointment, and stay in touch with them from this day forward, because out of 100, you'll probably get 50 of them on the phone. Out of those 50, 20 or 30 of them will want you off the phone as fast as possible. You're going to end up with a good 20 or so that are nice. They don't hang up on you. They may not need your services, though. Out of 20 people, only 1 of them are going to be doing something right now. But that means you have 19 people that are nice. They didn't hang up on you, and they should go in your database for sure. The other people could go on a generic follow-up plan, but do not put them on an 8x8 or a 33 touch. And see, all you have to do is have really 5 great conversations, but you have to do 100 people a day. If I'm talking about this, right? 100 people a week with 19 people would cover about 3 days of your 5 a day, 4 days of your 5 a day. So 100 people a week would actually get you your 5 a day, should get you your 5 a day, 20 people a day. Now we're back to bold numbers again. No matter how you go through it, it just kind of keeps coming back to those same numbers. This is what it looks like. There's the 100 people, right? Of those 100 people, some of them are renting, some of them are, not going to ever be a house buyer. And of those people, if you're looking at the screen, there's a small percentage of people that might actually be doing something anytime soon, like in the next 6 to 12 months, right? So out of all of those people, it's just a few people that are doing something now. So they talk about in Ignite this advantage of the predictable ROI 10 to 1. It's 10% of the database is probably moving, 10 to 14%. That is every 10 years and every 7 years of your database is moving. So you got to have those people in there, which I think we've talked about that stuff a lot, right? So again, this is talking about investing in your investing money. I'm going to invest more money in postage stamps on handwritten notes than I am going to be paying somebody to get leads from somewhere, because the leads from somewhere are always going to be on this really, really low conversion rate. And when we say 10 to 1 or 14 to 1, that's in a year. That's over a year's process. So we talked again about prospecting versus marketing based. Prospecting takes more time, but it just is cheap. It doesn't cost you money to call people and connect with them. Probably the most you can have is a handwritten note and the postage stamp. If you just did that one thing, you will double your business. If you wrote every single person you connected with a note, you'll double your business if you don't do anything else after that. So really, we're talking about developing the database from the prospecting side, more though so than the marketing side. But I'm going to tell you, if you are going to do the marketing side and spend money to bring leads in quicker, get really good at the prospecting side, which is relationships and building those relationships and staying in touch with them. So this just kind of shows you that you're putting tags in there for different things in command. Don't worry about tags. Until you're feeding your database 5 people a day, every day for 3 months, you do not need one tag in your database. It doesn't matter. You're going to have plenty of time to go clean up 300 contacts if you're doing it right. The next step before you even get into tags is, as long as your brain is thinking tags, you're thinking in bulk. And what I want you to think is 5 a day, and then systematically communicate with 5 of those people a day, every day for the next 8 weeks, and then for the next year, and then for the next 5 years, 7 years, actually, right? So don't worry about tags. Don't worry about what to color them in command yet. You don't need any of that stuff. Until you're feeding it every day, you shouldn't spend 1 more minute on tags and what to color them, right? In fact, you may not even earn the right to be dealing with the smart plans yet. Where are we at? We're right coming up on the top of the hour. You're not even really haven't even earned the right to worry about smart plans yet. There are some smart plans that are in there. In fact, there is one, if you guys write this down, it's called Cleanup, as one word, database, or Reconnect database. There's 2 options that'll pop up in the command library. So once you figure out how to go into command and you go where action plans are, there's a library, and I put a database cleanup plan in there. What it looks like is you would go through command from A to Z, and you would start 5 people on this plan today, start 5 more people and delay it till tomorrow to start 5 more people, delay it 3 days, delay it 4 days for the next 5 days for the next 5. And it basically will throw up a to-do in tomorrow that says, do you have their address and phone number? And in 3 days, you're going to get a notice to send them a reconnect letter. So you have 3 days to find their address. And that's where you use the sources that I'm about to share with you right now, right? So you use those sources, you find an address, you find the phone number, you go through your emails, you use Google, you use Facebook, you do all this stuff. You try to find it because the plan's running. And the reconnect letter is going to be ready for you to copy and paste into a letter and mail it to them. And it basically says, hey, I realize I haven't stayed in touch with you well this year or last year, whatever, and I'm going to call you in the next few days. And then the plan's already going to remind you to call that person in 3 days. So after you mail the letter, you'll have 3 or 4. I think I set it to 4 days because mail sometimes is a little slower. So I think it's set to 4 days that you're going to pick up the phone and call them. And then a to-do is going to show up in your command that says, did you send them a handwritten note? And then another step's going to pop up and say, start them on another plan, which would be your 8x8 plan. So I've already created that for you, but you don't even need that. you shouldn't even need that for the next 3 months, because you may not even be feeding or connecting with your people five a day. So that's where I say it comes back to the master notebook. All right, let me give you the websites that you can use. I'll just kind of walk you through the process of where I find people. All right, so I use fastpeoplesearch.com, and somebody gave one the other day. It was something verified or something like that. But Fast People Search I used. Facebook. Use that. That gives you, under their profile, it just a lot of times tells you what city they live in, right? Just on their front page of Facebook. You don't have to be friends with them. It should say where they currently live most of the time. And if you click their profile and go through all the little tabs down the side, one of them may even have a phone number listed or their address listed or both, and it has their birthday listed. So you can put that in command as well and make a birthday connection. Oh, here's the secret one. No, it's not so secret. Google.com. Put in their name and just Google it. Right? And put in their name in the city, put in their name and the phone number, put in their name and their email, and Google it, right? I'm telling you, and you got that will lead to other things like LinkedIn. Might give you under their connect and the about me will give you more information. So it's all of these things that I use, and I spend up to 5 minutes looking for missing information. So now this brings me back to the master list again. The master list is where I capture the name, and I'm not going to spend more than 5 minutes on that name in my master list to try and find these things. But once I track down a phone number and an address, they now are my hot button. And when I'm ready to start calling people, I just open my master list and I've got several names with addresses and phone numbers. I'm going to start with those. That's my calls for today. And I'm going to call those people, and I'm not going to get everybody on the phone. Some of those people I'm going to leave messages to, they stay in my notebook. And then tomorrow I'll go find more addresses and more phone numbers. And then I start making my calls, and I go back and I'm probably calling somebody I left a message to yesterday. But once I get them on the phone, I put them in command or your database, and I start the follow-up plan, because I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. I've got their address to verify in the conversation so I can send them the note, and I get them in the database, and then I scratch them out of the notebook. They don't need to be in there anymore. The goal is to keep feeding names into the notebook until everybody's in the world that you've ever come in contact with is in your notebook, and everybody you found as many addresses and phone numbers as you can find, and then you're scratching them out, trying to get that to be all blacked out, and everybody's in your database. If you're connecting this way, your duplicates will show up pretty easy, because you're calling them on a regular basis now. You're calling them 3 times in 8 weeks, and then 4 times a year after that. So you're not gonna have too many duplicates in your notebook, because you're really getting organized about how you're doing it. There might be some duplicates at first from when you were doing your main list, and when you go to the database to see if they're in there and you see them in there already, you can scratch them out of your notebook. You already had them in there. So really, if you have too many different places to go to, you'll be grabbing some today from this list, not doing it the next day, some from this one another day, Facebook today, LinkedIn tomorrow, and it's a hodgepodge mess that cannot be controlled. And in fact, it'd take you a week or 2 months, maybe months, to just sit down and put everybody into command. And then they're sitting in command doing nothing. So nothing better than what I've found in that master list notebook. So let me just make sure there's nothing else. We already talked about this one yesterday, the different type of touches. A lead is just like, you're basically doing about a monthly touch, and you're working on headlines and capture things to get them to pick up the phone and call you. But your contacts are the more touch. This is the 36 touch. You're going to 36 touch to convert, but convert might be 3 years from now. It might be 5 years from now, and they're going to be on that plan until then. So again, there's a couple things in here just on the content. You can tend to your database by getting testimonials and reviews. regularly update and prune your database. There's really no pruning necessary if you're putting people in that you had a good two-way conversation with. You wrote them a handwritten note, you put them on an 8x8. You just stay in touch with them. And most of the time they don't have anything to talk about because they're not moving for another 5 years. But you're just communicating as a resident of the same community, and you're establishing yourself as the expert. These are all little things that you can do as drip pieces along the way. But again, it does not have to be about real estate until they're ready to buy or sell. So that's pretty much the content. Oh, I'll go to the rest of this stuff is like going through your slides and all that stuff. But we've got the QR code here. If you guys would fill out a survey on what you think about today, it really helps me know that at least, you know, even though we may talk about the same stuff a lot, at least I know you're hearing it differently every time we do this, so that you're getting it a little more every day, each day. And you can scan it with your phone too. All right, let me open it up if you guys have any questions at all about anything about your database or connecting with these people. What may seem like it's going to be tough, or is it going good? Or is it just a matter of getting organized and really doing it? I'll open it up. Are you guys glad you tuned in today?
Absolutely.
Awesome. See, I love getting people excited about their database. I love getting people excited about the relationships that they already have. Because I'm telling you, man, it is a lot more fun to sell real estate to people that you don't have to gain their trust, right? Those mean old for sale by owners and expireds and all that stuff. Believe me, I can handle them all with the best of them. But that's not fun. It's not fun. The buyers that I go out and show houses to, my California buyers, oh, I'm done. Like, they went back to California. I purposely have not followed up with them in a week and a half. I don't like them. They are not listening to me. I'm done. But if they come back and buy a $400,000 house from me, roll on into town and tell me when you're here. But I am not wasting a whole lot of time on these people. I was ready to fire them when they left this last trip, because they kept writing offers without seeing the house. And then they get here and go, well, how do you expect us to buy a house we haven't seen? I was like, oh my gosh, you people are nuts. I don't need that. I've got enough people that will sign buyers agencies with me because they like me and they trust me, that I don't need to work with somebody that just is not willing to do it. And when they come into town, let me make a point here. When those people come into town, they're going to pay a retainer fee up front and sign a buyer agency. And she is not going to like to hear it, but it's like, this is the only way I'm working with you from now on. I want $500 up front, and I will represent you. I've already shown them everything I've done to work in their best interest. So if she doesn't want to do it at that point, I'm done with them. I'm not going to waste any more time. So anyway, that's what
Let's keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, well, and it's not even being mean. I mean, it's like, I have given them everything, and I've played that game, and I've got the follow-up, and I've got the trust, but they're crazy people. So yeah, I mean, and it's fine. I won't be upset about it. They can call me the next day and go, well, we just bought another house from another guy. That's awesome. And guess what? They'll go on my 10-year drip plan. And guess who will be listing their house in 5 years? So
Listen, have a good one. Thank you so much, Brad.
You betcha. I love it when you guys are getting excited about the database. Love it, love it, love it. Anybody else before we tune out?
Nothing.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
You bet you. You betcha. I'm glad you were here. This is recorded too, so anybody that was on vacation with the kids and couldn't join in, they'll have access to this recording. This might be a really good one to go listen to again, right? All right, guys. Have a great Martin Luther King Day.